Okay, so we're going to talk about gradual release. This is really an awesome strategy. It was the first one on my list. It was the first one I learned when I was a new teacher that completely changed what was happening in my classroom. Because I don't know about you, but when you're that first year teacher, those kids are doing stuff and you are like, what are you doing? I told you not to do that. Why are you doing the opposite of what I said? So they just get really excitable. They just do. And so gradual release is a strategy you can use to just kind of calm that energy down, and you can make things happen. You don't have to be terrified of having them get out of their seats, like, oh, don't let them move because then they'll do something crazy, Gradual release allows them to get up, to move, to do things in the classroom, but you don't have to worry because you have control over it. So, most teachers don't really think about these things when they write their lessons. They're thinking about the content. They're thinking about what they actually want to do, which is teach, At least that's how it was for me. I didn't want to have to tell them exactly how to do every single step of what I was having them do. I just wanted to teach my subject, which was language arts. I love reading and I love writing, and I wanted to teach that. Unfortunately, in order to teach it to middle schoolers, you really have to be very thoughtful about every single step. And one way to really ensure that they're going to do those steps the right way is through gradual release. So let's talk about this gradual release thing. So you can use it at the beginning of the day when they're just coming into your classroom. You can use it between activities, and you can use it at the end of the day. In fact, I use gradual release anytime I feel like they're kind of going nuts and I need to control this right now. So, for instance, at the beginning of the day, how I would use gradual release is they might line up outside my classroom. Before I let them in, I'm not just going to let them in my room like some giant horde of crazy kids, I'm going to line them up and I'm going to look them in the eye and I'm going to, do some action. Like I might say, hey, how you doing today? Okay, let them in. That's relationship building. Or if I'm concerned about, them having pencils, having paper, I might say, hey, do you have a pencil today? Or show me your pencil. I may have told them the day before what I'm going to expect them to have when they line up, so they know when I, point and look at them like, what you got? They know what I'm asking for because I told them the day before. And I don't know how many kids I have that are like, oh yeah, and then they run real quick to go to their locker and come right back before class even starts and before they're late. So it's, a really good strategy to make sure that they have their supplies. And the other thing that's good about it is I get them coming in one at a time. It's not this giant horde that comes to my room and then starts, dissecting the furniture or something like that. So how I would use gradual release in between things, like in the middle of a lesson or maybe after a piece of my class, would be, and it depends on the seating arrangement, but I might say if I'm going to do a mini lesson, because I'm a language arts teacher, we do mini lessons sometimes, I might say, all right, I am looking for the quietest group. Okay, this group, will you guys please come down to the floor and sit right here? Okay, this group, come and sit down on the floor, sit right here. This group, and so forth. So not only am I not going to have a giant horde of children coming at me to come sit on the floor and probably causing a lot of ruckus on their way there, I'm also being very specific about what I expect for them. If noise level is a problem, before I do that, I might address, how exactly I expect them to walk over there at level 2 or whatever. I need you to please come sit right here on the floor, right in this spot, So being very specific with that, and the thing is you can use it in so many different ways. An example of the end of the day, and I use this in order to get them to clean up, because let's face it, these kids are messy, and a lot of times there might be papers on the floor, pencils on the floor, a book on the floor, whatever. Now, I kind of think sometimes a little mess is a sign of a good teacher, like we had our books open, we're learning today. But we need to teach them responsibility, and we need to teach them to actually care about the classroom. So I will offer, basically, I'll say, so I will dismiss the cleanest, quietest group when the bell rings. So I'm looking for that cleanest and quietest group. I'm wondering, and then if it's still, I'm like, I'm wondering what group is going to get number one. I'm looking to pick out that number one group right now. Who's that gonna be? And then they'll be like, oh, straighten the desk, like, okay, I've got my number one. Now I'm looking for my number two. Who's my number two group gonna be? Who's gonna get to go number two out the door today? So it's a really good strategy to get your room clean and to kind of calm them down before the end of the day. And it also reinforces the fact that you dismiss them, not the bell. Okay, so if you do that from day one, you will never have them like, why can't we go? Why are you holding us? A lot of teachers will have to hold their students, because they did tear up the classroom, and then the students are all mad, and then the teacher's like writing a million passes to try to get whatever the situation is. If you stop whatever you're doing, like maybe 2 minutes before they need to be dismissed, and then they pick everything up, and then you're saying, hey, who's gonna go first today, and you basically make it based on that, then you're gonna get a lot more buy-in on cleaning up the room. You're giving them a little privilege for doing you a favor. And that's another thing I'll talk about later is, in your classroom, it doesn't just have to be, oh, you're going to have detention, you're going to have suspension, or you're going to the office, or else. There's so many other things that you can do to leverage the situation. There's so many little privileges that you can either extend or not extend in your classroom that can basically give you an edge. So I'm going to be discussing those in later videos. But anyways, I hope that you will try Gradual Release. If you're having trouble with really high energy kids, just coming in like a giant horde, leaving your classroom trashed, or if you feel terrified of doing anything where the kids are out of their seats because you're like, oh my gosh, they're just going to get crazy. I really hope that you will try Gradual Release. You'll find that you can do a lot of much more creative, fun things by using Gradual Release than you could otherwise. Thanks for watching.